everyone. I'm going to teach mathematics for class 12 and I will start from second chapter. As far as first chapter is concerned, I taught that and uploaded all my videos in my Facebook page. So you can study first chapter from my Facebook page and you can find it in Facebook. My profile is Namgyal Sikki. So there you can find all the videos related to first chapter. So from second chapter I'm going to teach here. Okay, so that is in Namgyal Sikki. You can find all my videos on the first chapter. Okay, so here we will be starting with the second chapter, which is inverse trigonometric function. And to understand this chapter, we need the concepts of trigonometric functions which you had learned in class 11 and the bijectivity of a function that we learned in the first chapter. Okay, so if I do a quick revision on the things you had learned in class 11, which I'm going to use it here in this chapter. So first I'll just recall a few things. So we have a chapter trigonometric function in class 11 in which you were introduced with the 6 trigonometric ratios and its domain and range. So I'll just give you all the domain and range of the 6 trigonometric functions. So when I have a function sine, we know that the domain of sine is set of all real numbers. Domain means, what do we mean by domain? Domain means it is set of all x at which the function is defined. So sine is defined for set of all real numbers, which means if you take any real number, when I write sine x, now this x can be any real number, okay? So if I take sine of 1, sine of 90, sine of 100, sine of 120, sine of 300, sine of 1000, sine of any negative real numbers also, sine of -5, sine of -6. So for all such real numbers, you will get a defined value of sine. So therefore we say that the domain of sine is set of all real numbers. So in detail you had learned that in class 11. If you remember, you might have made a table in which you had seen the behaviors of all the 6 trigonometric ratios in each quadrant, right? So with that you had defined the domain of the sine. So the domain of sine is set of all real numbers and its range is closed interval -1 to 1. So what do we mean by range? It is the image set of images. So now we had already set the domain. So we had said that the sine function is defined for set of all real numbers. So if you take any real number, we get a defined value. Now the range means when you, for this any real number x, whatever value you will get here, you will get a value here for any real number. Sine of 1 you will get a value, sine of 2 you will get a value, sine of 90 you will get a value, sine of 1000 you will get a value, sine of -100 you will get a value. So when we collect all these values, you will always see that the value will lie between -1 and +1. So this is the range of sine. At most the value of sine can be 1. The value of sine will never exceed 1. The value of sine is always less than or equals to 1. That is one thing you have to remember. And also you will see that the value of sine is always greater than or equals to -1. The value of sine will not less than -1. So somewhere if you see sine of x is equals to 3, this equation is incorrect. It is not a valid equation. Okay, so always remember that for any real number x, the value of sine has to be always less than or equals to 1. At most the value of sine can be 1, but it will not exceed 1. Okay, similarly if I write sine of y is equals to -4, this equation is also incorrect. Okay, because the value of sine is always greater than or equals to -1. So this is the domain and range of sine. Similarly for cos, the domain is set of all real number. The function cos is defined for all real numbers and its range is also closed interval -1 to +1. Same as sine, cos is also defined for set of all real numbers and its range is -1 to +1. Now you know the graph of these 6 trigonometric ratios. Okay, for the function tan is, the domain of tan is set of all real numbers excluding. Now tan is not defined for set of all real numbers. Tan is not defined. So we have to exclude certain points from the set of all real numbers at which 10 is not defined. So from the set of real number, we are excluding all x. We are excluding all such x where x is equals to 2n plus 1 pi by 2, where n is some integer, right? So this is the domain of 10. Okay, now you look here. If x is equals to pi by 2, say if I take n is equals to 0, right? N is equals to 0, then I do get here, for n is equals to 0, what do I get? X is equals to 2 into 0 is 0 plus 1, that is 1. So 1 into pi by 2 is pi by 2. So at x is equals to pi by 2, 10 is not defined. If you remember, we have 1090 or 10 pi by 2 is not defined. We used to write like that, right? So therefore, we are excluding all such points. So it is not only the point at which 10 is not defined. We have some more points, that is at pi by 2. Also, if I consider 3 pi by 2, at 5 pi by 2, right? If I also go on negative side, negative pi by 2, negative 3 pi by 2, negative 5 pi by 2, and so on. As many revolution you increase, so we get more points, more such points. So at all these points, 10 is not defined. So therefore, we are excluding all such points. You can see, I generalize this here, x. Here x is equals to pi by 2. Pi by 2, pi by 2, pi by 2, it's common everywhere. Now you just look at the coefficients of pi by 2. Here it is, the coefficient of pi by 2 is 1. Here the coefficient of pi by 2 is 3. Here the coefficient of pi by 2 is 5. Here it is negative 1, it is negative 3, negative 5. So the coefficients of pi by 2 is odd integers. You can see that. So 2n plus 1 is the representation of an odd integer. So pi by 2 with any odd integer, 10 is not defined. So therefore, from the set of real numbers, I am excluding all such x. Except these x, for other real numbers, 10 is always a defined value, right? So therefore, the domain of 10 is set of all real numbers excluding all such x, where x is equals to 2n plus 1 into pi by 2, where n is some integer. So this is the domain of 10, okay? And its range is, the range of 10 is set of all real numbers. So 10 can take any value, not like sine and cos. Sine and cos value is limited. The sine value and cos value cannot exceed positive 1. It cannot be less than negative 1. But as far as 10 is concerned, it can take any real value, okay? Then we have cosec function. So cosec is also not defined at some points. So we are excluding all such points from the set of real numbers. So x is equals to, okay, I write like this. From the set of all real numbers, I am excluding all x, where x is equals to n pi, where n is some integer, okay. So this is the domain of cosec. Now you look here. Cosec is same as 1 upon sine. Cosec is the reciprocal of sine. So we have to exclude all such points at which sine is equals to 0, because when we take it in a fraction form, then the denominator cannot be 0, okay. So these are all x at which sine is 0. So therefore, I am excluding all such points. Now I will not go in so detail because all these things you had already learned in class 11, and I assume that you all are familiar with this topic. So I'll just give you the domain and range of these 6 trigonometric ratios. Okay, so cosec, this is the domain of cosec, and the range is set of all real numbers excluding open interval negative 1 to 1. So what does this mean now? Here, the value of cosec. Now, if you take any x from this set, you will get a defined value for cosec. Now that value of the cosec, it can be any real number, but it will not come in this interval. So you won't get, for any x, you will never get like this. Cosec of some x is equals to 0. This is an invalid equation. So the value of cosec will never lie in this interval. The value of cosec is always greater than or equals to 1, or the value of cosec is less than or equals to 1. Its value will not lie in this interval. So this is the range of cosec. And then we have sec function. Sec means it is 1 upon cos. So cos, so it is same as tan. Domain of tan and sec is same. So that is x, where x is equals to 2n plus 1 pi by 2, where n is some integer, and the range is same as cosec. And the range of sec function is set of all real numbers excluding open interval -1 to +1. Okay. And then number 6, the sixth trigonometric ratio we have is cot function. So cot function is defined for, now cot means cos upon sine. So these two will be same. So the domain of cosec and cot is same. So that is set of all real numbers excluding all x, where x is equals to n pi, where n is some integer, and its range is set of all real numbers. Okay. So now these are the 6 trigonometric ratios with its domain and range. Now you should have a good understanding of the domain and range of the 6 trigonometric functions, because we are going to use these concepts in our chapter. Okay, this is one thing I want to recall from the this chapter, trigonometric function, which you had learned in class 11. Okay, so you should know all the domain and range of the 6 trigonometric functions. Okay, now we will come to this chapter, inverse trigonometric functions. Okay. Okay, now if I consider my function f, first I will give you one example. Say my function f is from set A to B. If I consider my function f is from set A to B, do you remember invertible function? Okay, so invertible function, that is in first chapter. So those students who had not studied first chapter, please first you should have an understanding of the concept of invertible functions to define inverse function. Okay, inverse trigonometric function. So first you need to learn that. Okay, then only you will be able to understand this concept. So now we have f is from set A to B. Now I suppose that f is invertible function, which means f inverse exists. So then what do we have? F inverse, f is from set A to B, f inverse is from set B to A. This is what we had seen. Okay. So now if I consider x over here, I'll get an image here that is f of x. Also we write it as y. Okay. If I take an element y here, under this function I get its image in this set, that is f inverse of y, which you can denote it by x. So this is the relationship between the function and its inverse. Okay, so function f, it goes from f a to b, and f inverse, it goes from b to a. Okay, now in first chapter we had seen that every function is not invertible. For every function f, you cannot find its inverse. So the function to be invertible, it has to satisfy a special condition. That is, if you remember, we said that f is invertible if and only if f is bijective. Do you remember this? Bijective means the function has to be 1, 1 and onto. So if a function is 1, 1 and onto, then the function is bijective, which implies the function is invertible. So when a function is invertible, which means the function has its inverse. The inverse of the function exists. Okay. So therefore, the function is invertible only when the function is bijective. So we can find the inverse of a function only if the function is bijective, which means the function is 1, 1 and onto. So same concept is to be applied on trigonometric function and its inverse. Okay. So we can find the inverse of a trigonometric function only if that trigonometric function is bijective. Okay. So okay, now I'll show you for the function sine. Okay, now if I consider my function fx is equals to sine x. Okay. Now if I'm interested in finding out the inverse of this function sine, okay, if I'm interested in finding the inverse of sine, then I would be able to find sine inverse only if the function sine x is bijective. Now you have to remember that. Okay, so which means the sine function has to be 1, 1 and onto. So I'll check that. Now we had seen the domain and range of the sine in the previous section. So the domain of the sine is set of all real numbers and the range of sine is -1 to 1. So this is the domain and range of sine, which means if I consider any x from the set of real numbers, you will always get a defined value, and that value will be in between -1 and +1. Okay, so I'll get a value y over here. Okay, now here in the real number, if I take 0, if I take 0, okay, then what is sine of 0? I get 0, right? Okay, if I take pi, what is sine of pi? Again it is 0. So now you can see here, the image of 0 under the function sine is 0, because we know that sine of 0 is 0. Also sine of pi is 0. Okay, now you leave all the other real numbers. Just consider these two elements, 0 and pi. For these two elements, the image of the sine is same. It is not distinct. Then what does it contradict? Do you remember? So earlier in the first chapter, we had these two things we had defined, that is 1, 1 function and onto function. When do we say that a function is 1, 1? A function is 1, 1 if every element of the first set has distinct image in the second set. Distinct means the two elements should have different images. They cannot have same image. So here 0 and pi, they are distinct elements. They are distinct, but they are having same image, which means the function sine is not 1, 1. The function sine is not 1, 1. If the function is not 1, 1, if sine function is not 1, 1, then the function will not be a bijective function. So if a function is not bijective, then we cannot find its inverse. Okay, so now I got this. Sine x is not 1, 1, which implies sine x is not bijective. And this implies, now you have to go on continuing. Sine is not 1, 1, because you can see that for 0 and pi, they are having same image. If sine is not 1, 1, sine is not bijective. If sine is not bijective, then sine is not invertible. And this shows inverse of sine x does not exist. First, just try to understand this concept. I've shown you through arrow diagram. For these two elements, okay, you are getting the same image here, which means the sine is not a 1, 1 function, because the function to be 1, 1, what we should have is every element in the first set should have distinct image in the second set. So this is contradicting the statement of 1, 1 function. So here we have 0 and pi, these are two distinct elements, but they have same image. So this shows that sine is not a 1, 1 function. Okay, if sine is not 1, 1, sine is not bijective. If sine is not bijective, sine is not invertible. Hence, we cannot find the inverse of sine, right? So invertible, the function is invertible. Its inverse exists only when the function is bijective. So since sine is not bijective, we cannot find the inverse. Okay, now what I will try to do is I need to find out sine inverse. However, so what I will do is I will try to restrict my domain. Here the domain of sine is set of all real numbers. So I will try to restrict the domain of sine. Instead of taking set of all real numbers as the domain of sine, I will try to make it into smaller intervals in which the sine becomes invertible, so that I can find sine inverse in such small intervals. So I will graphically show you, okay? First, you just need to understand this concept. When I take the domain of sine as set of all real numbers, the sine is not bijective in that set. So therefore, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to restrict the domain of sine from set of all real numbers to smaller intervals. And my objective here is to make sine bijective in such small intervals, okay? So graphically we will see that. So you will get a clear understanding. First you understand this. The sine function is defined for set of all real number and its range is closed interval -1 to +1. Okay. Now you remember the graph of sine. So this is the graph of, I'll plot the graph here. Range is from -1 to +1. Okay, here I have 0, 0, pi by 2, pi, 3 pi by 2, 2 pi, and it continues 5 pi by 2, right? It continues 3 pi and so on. On the left hand side I do have negative pi by 2, negative pi, negative 3 pi by 2 and negative 2 pi. So I'll take one revolution on the positive side and one revolution on the negative side. Okay. So now you are familiar with the graph of the sine. So in the first quadrant, that is 0 to pi by 2, 0 to 90, it is first quadrant. So in the first quadrant, the sine is increasing from 0 to 1. So this is how we plot the graph of sine. You know the behavior of sine in all the four quadrants, okay? And in the second quadrant, sine is decreasing from 1 to 0. And in the third quadrant, again sine is decreasing from 0 to -1. And in the fourth quadrant, sine is increasing from -1 to 0. So this is the graph of sine on the positive side of the number line, okay? And here in the fourth quadrant, that is -90 to 0 means it is the fourth quadrant. In the fourth quadrant, it is increasing from -1 to 0. In the third quadrant, it is decreasing from 0 to -1. And in the second quadrant, it is decreasing from 1 to 0. And in the first quadrant, it is increasing from 0 to 1. So this is the graph of sine, right? Okay, now you look at this graph and try to observe this function. Now what do I have here? This is my set of all real numbers. This is the domain. X-axis, generally we don't see x-axis when we consider trigonometric functions. We see domain and range, but anyhow, for your understanding, I'm just writing it here. So the domain is always shown on x-axis, the range is shown on y-axis, okay? So now here, at this point and at this point, 0 is 1 point on the number line or the domain, and pi is also a domain of the set of this sine function sine x. Now here what do I have? Sine of 0 is equals to sine of pi is equals to 0. Sine of 0, when you take 0, sine of 0, its image is 0. Also when you take pi, sine of pi, so it is again 0. So these two, 0 and pi, are distinct elements, right? But they are having same image. So which this is one example which you can show to, that the function is not 1, 1, okay? Similarly, if I take one, okay, I will choose this point, okay, pi by 2, you can take this point, pi by 2, and you can take this point, 3 pi by 2. What is the image? -3 pi by 2, okay. What is sine of -3 pi by 2? Image, it is +1, okay. Similarly, what is sine of pi by 2? Sine of pi by 2, again its image is 1. So you can see that its image is 1. Again, this is one example. -3 pi by 2 and pi by 2, these are two distinct elements, but they are having same image, okay. So therefore, from this, what I mean to say is, if you consider the set of all real numbers as the domain of sine, then the function does not become bijective. Hence, we cannot find the inverse of function sine. So now what I'm going to do is, instead of taking set of all real numbers as the domain, I'm going to now restrict the domain of sine into smaller intervals, in which I can say that the sine is bijective. And the function to be bijective, it has to be 1, 1 and onto. So you should be clear with the concept of 1, 1 function and onto function. So now if I restrict my interval, just give me a minute. Okay, if I restrict my interval from 0 to pi, if I restrict my, instead of taking set of all real numbers, if I restrict my interval from 0 to pi, then what happens? Now we will check within this interval does this function becomes bijective, which means does function sign becomes 1 1 and onto. We have to now check that. Okay, so you can see that at 0 and pi they are having same images, so therefore the sign is not bijective. Clearly you can see that. Similarly, if I take one point here and if I take one point here, at these 2 points, hope it is visible to you, at these 2 points, what is the image of this point here? What is the image of this point here? Which means, say, let it be some y1, okay? So let it be x1 and x2. So x1 and x2 are some points within this interval. These two are distinct elements, but they are having same image, right? So which means again this function is not bijective in this interval. So we cannot find the inverse of sine in this interval. We cannot do that. Now you have to think of other interval. Okay. Now what I will do is, if I consider another interval, say if I, okay, now 0 to pi, this interval is of no use, so I'm just going to rub that. Okay. Now please, you should know that why I am restricting my domain of sine into smaller intervals. You should know that, so that I can find sine inverse. Right now my objective is only to find sine inverse in certain intervals, since we cannot find that in set of all real numbers. Okay, so that's why I'm restricting the domain. Okay, now if I consider my interval from negative pi by 2 to positive pi by 2. Now you can consider this interval. Okay, negative pi by 2 to positive pi by 2. Okay, now you look here. If I take a point here, you get an image here, is it? If I take a point here, I get an image here. If I take a point here, you get an image here. If I take a point here, it's images here. If I take a point here, you get an image here. If I take a point here, you get an image here. So now you can check within this interval, negative pi by 2 to pi by 2, if you take any point on this interval, you will always get a unique image, right? Unique image or distinct image for all the points. So therefore in this interval the function becomes 1 1. You can see the graph is not overlapping, okay? It's not, for every point you can find the distinct image, see, in this interval. Similarly, now the function to be 1, the function is 1 1. Okay, now we have to see whether the function is onto or not, because the function to be bijective, it has to be both 1 1 and onto. So now we will check whether the function is onto. Okay, now for onto, you remember the definition of onto function? For onto function, what we should have, every element of the second set B. B means the second set. That my function f is from set A to B. So every element of set B has some pre-image in A, right? So every element of set B has some pre-image in set A. So now B means the set of range. So now if I consider a point here, you get an image here. If I take a point here, you get a pre-image here, sorry. If I get a point here, you get a pre-image. So you can see that for all the range, any point if you take, all the points are having image, pre-image, right? So therefore in this interval, you can see that the function is both 1 1 and onto, right? Hence the function becomes bijective in this interval. If the function is bijective, then we can find sine inverse within that interval. So now I'm just repeating the things. The function, when you consider the domain of function sine as set of all real numbers, then in that real number the function does not becomes bijective, and hence we cannot find the inverse of sine. So therefore instead of taking set of all real numbers, to find sine inverse, I am restricting it into smaller intervals, because in such intervals I can find sine inverse. So that in such intervals I can make the function sine inverse bijective, and I can find inverse in such intervals. So this is one interval. Okay, now I'm going to list all the intervals. Okay, now you will get so many such intervals in which sign is bijective. So one of the interval we got, that is negative pi by 2 to pi by 2. Now the interval is closed interval, you have to remember. Okay, so this is one interval in which sine inverse can be found, right? Okay, again I can take pi by 2 to 3 pi by 2. Now you should have graph like this. Okay, so in this interval also this pi by 2 to 3 pi by 2 sine inverse will exist, because at every point on this x-axis they will have distinct image, and also for all x on the range you will get its pre-image, right? So another interval we get here is pi by 2 to 3 pi by 2. This is one more interval. Okay, then you keep on repeating. Then we have here 5 pi by 2. The graph of sine will continue like this. So again in this interval, 3 pi by 2 to 5 pi by 2. Again we can find sine inverse, right? Similarly, if I come on this side, okay, negative pi by 2 to pi by 2 I've written there. Then we have here negative 3 pi by 2 to negative pi by 2. In this interval also function sine inverse exists, because in this interval we can find its inverse, right? So one more interval I have got here is negative 3 pi by 2 to negative pi by 2. Now you remember that all the brackets are to be used as closed interval, because all these points are to be included, because sine is defined at all these points. So you have to include all these points. Similarly, now the graph continues like this. Here if I extend, this point will be negative 5 pi by 2. So one more interval if I write is negative 5 pi by 2 to negative 3 pi by 2, right? So if you keep on generalizing this, you will get such more intervals. Okay, so in these intervals, these are the intervals which are restricted from the set of all real numbers, so that we can find sine inverse. So now if I consider this interval, within this interval the function sine is 1 1 and on 2, which means the sine is bijective in this interval, hence it is invertible, and sine inverse we can find out in this interval. Similarly, in this interval sine is invertible. For all these intervals sine is invertible. So these are the restricted intervals from set of real numbers, and why we are doing this, that we should know. Okay, so that within these intervals we can find sine inverse. We had seen that if we take set of all real numbers, then we cannot find sine inverse. So to find sine inverse, we had restricted set of real numbers to these smaller intervals. Okay, now all these restricted intervals, you will get more. If you extend the number line, you will get more such intervals. Okay, so all such restricted intervals, these are called as the branch of inverse trigonometric functions, right? So you should know this. All the restricted intervals in which we can find sine inverse, all such intervals are said to be branch of the inverse trigonometric function. So these are the branches of inverse trigonometric functions. Okay, now within these interval, okay, out of these intervals, can you look for that interval in which first quadrant is included? First quadrant, you know, first quadrant is 0 to pi by 2. So in this or this or this, in which interval this first quadrant is included? Check. So this is fourth quadrant to first quadrant. So which means in this we have 0 to pi by 2. In this interval we have pi by 2 to 3 pi by 2, right? This is second and third interval. This is third and fourth interval, right? So like this. So now here you can consider this. In this interval we had included first interval, this first quadrant, right? So 0 to, negative pi by 2 to pi by 2. I am choosing this interval out of all these intervals, because in this interval we had included the first quadrant, right? So this interval, negative pi by 2 to pi by 2, I am choosing this interval out of all these branches, because in this interval first quadrant is included. Only because of that I'm choosing this. This interval is called as the principal branch. Okay. So first you should understand what do we mean by the branch and then principal branch. Okay. So you will get many branches of inverse trigonometric function. So principal branch means that branch which includes the first quadrant. Okay. So this is the principal branch of sine. Right. Okay. Now I can write now I can define sine inverse. Okay, sine inverse is from, okay, now if my function f is from set A to B, then if f inverse exists, then how do I write? F inverse is from B to A. Do you remember that? You have to interchange the domain and range set of the function. Okay, now I have this. My function sine is from set of all real numbers to, this is the domain and range of sine. Now for sine inverse, I have to interchange these two. Range, first I will write it here, -1 to 1. 2, if I write this, then it is incorrect. Okay, because we had seen that for the set of real numbers, sine inverse does not exist. Because when I take the whole domain, set of real numbers, then what do I get? Sine is not invertible in that. So we cannot find sine inverse. So therefore, I had restricted my domain of sine into smaller intervals. So here you can take any such interval, this or this or this, any interval you can write. But in a standard way, we always write the principal branch as the range of sine inverse. Okay, you can write -π/2 to π/2. Now you know what do we mean by the principal branch? That branch which include first quadrant. Okay, so that is to be considered as your principal branch. So now this becomes my domain of sine inverse and this becomes the range of sine inverse. Even if you write here this interval, it is correct. It is correct. Okay, but in a standard way, we always write the principal branch here, right? So principal branch and branch, you know the difference. Principal branch is also one of the branch which includes the first quadrant. So like this you will write. Okay. So similarly now if I consider, okay, I'll give you one more example for cos x. Now you know the graph of cos. Okay. Now I think with this example you will be clear with the concept. Okay. 0 to π/2, pi, 3π/2, 2 pi, and here I have -π/2, -pi, -3π/2, it's -2 pi, and this is 1 and this is -1. Okay. So the graph of cos, in the first quadrant it is decreasing from 1 to 0, again it is decreasing, then it is increasing. So this is the graph of cos, it goes like this. And here also the graph of cos, it is like this. Okay, so this is the graph of cos. Okay, now this is, you know how to plot the graph that you had learned in class 11. Okay, now you think of the branches of cos. Now again you can see that cos, what is the domain and range of cos? Cos is defined as set of all real numbers and range is -1 to 1. This is the domain and range of cos. Now if I consider set of all real numbers, then cos is not invertible on that, because you can see that at these 2 points they are having same image. At these 2 points 0 and 2 pi, cos is having same image. Its image is 1. So therefore the function is not 1 1. Now what do I have to do? Its same concept is to be used. We have to restrict the domain into smaller intervals. Okay, so now if I take this interval -π/2 to π/2, then what happens? Now you can see the graph. The function is not 1 1 in this graph, is it? So therefore I have to change the interval. Okay, so now for cos, I will take my intervals, I will change the interval, I will get different branches. So for cos I will write, okay, I will take this here, 0 to pi. You can see that? Okay, so within this interval 0 to pi, sine is, cos is invertible. Similarly, pi to 2 pi, right? Okay, so here on this side, 0 to -pi. -pi to -2 pi. Okay, so these are the restricted intervals to define cos inverse. So you can write this. So what are the branches you get? Try to list out. So I get here 0 to pi, pi to 2 pi, 2 pi to 3 pi, so on. Here we get negative pi to 0. Okay, close interval. Negative 2 pi to negative pi, negative 3 pi to negative 2 pi, and so on. Okay, so these are all the branches for cos function. Okay, now can you find out what will be the principal branch for this? Principal branch means you have to take that branch which includes the first quadrant. Okay, so now you can clearly see this one will be the principal branch, is it? So this is 0 to pi means first and second quadrant. So first quadrant is included here. So therefore the principal branch is 0 to pi. So this is the principal branch of cos. Okay. So now I can write it here directly. Cos inverse is from, okay, now I have to write this here. Now I will not write set of real numbers here because we have restricted it to smaller intervals. So that is, I will write here 0 to pi. So this is the domain and range of cos inverse. So likewise, we can define the domain and range for the other four trigonometric ratios: tan inverse, cosec inverse, sec inverse, and cot inverse. We can do that. Now I will do one more tan. For tan function I will do, and then for the remaining three, this is your assignment today to find the domain and range of the remaining three trigonometric ratios. Okay. Okay, now for tan function, if my function is tan x, okay, what is the domain and range of tan? You know, it is set of all real numbers excluding all such x, where x is equals to 2n plus 1, pi by 2, where n is some integer, and its range is set of all real numbers. So this is the domain and range of tan. Now graphically we'll try to see. 0, pi by 2, 2 pi, 3 pi by 2, 2 pi. If I come this side, negative pi by 2, negative pi, negative 3 pi by 2, and negative 2 pi, right? So this is the graph of tan. It goes like this. Tan is increasing function. It is ever increasing function. It always increases. Okay. It goes like this. Okay. Now you can see, if I take a point here and if I take a point here, okay, this image, it is here, its image is here, and at this point its image is here, right? So can you look for any 2 points where the image is same? If I take one point here, say this is x1, and if I take one point somewhere here, say x2, are the images of x1 and x2 are same? Okay, this is the image of x1 and this is the image of x2, right? So x1 and x2 are distinct. They are distinct elements, but they are having same image, which means tan is not invertible. When I consider the set of all the whole domain as the set, then tan is not invertible. So now what I need to do is same as in these two cases. I need to restrict the domain of tan so that in such smaller intervals tan becomes invertible and we can find out tan inverse. Now our aim is only to make smaller intervals where tan becomes bijective. So now can you see, it's quite simple. Now if I take one interval, negative pi by 2 to positive pi by 2. Now within this interval, this graph is like this. So within this interval, the tan will becomes invertible. It is 1, 1 as well as it is on 2. So you can find out the inverse of tan in this interval. Similarly, pi by 2 to 3 pi by 2 you can find out. Now the only thing is we have, when I restrict the domain, okay, interval, when I take it smaller interval, one is negative pi by 2 to pi by 2. When I consider sign, we had taken close interval because these 2 points are to be included, okay. But here we know that 10 is not defined. We had already excluded all such points. These points are not there in the domain of 10. These are already excluded. So therefore, when you write the branch of 10, you have to use open bracket. Now be very careful with the brackets of subintervals of the real number when you take the brackets. Okay, so this is negative pi by 2 to pi by 2. Okay, then we have open interval pi by 2 to 3 pi by 2. Okay, so on. Then also we have here negative 3 pi by 2 to negative pi by 2. And then we have negative 5 pi by 2 to negative 3 pi by 2. 3 pi by 2 to 5 pi by 2. So you will get infinitely many such branches, okay, where you can find out 10 inverse. But for to get the principal branch, what we should have that interval which includes the first quadrant. So can you find out which interval is including the first quadrant? So this one. So this is the principal branch of 10 inverse. So I'm going to write it here. So 10 inverse. Now I need to interchange the range is set of all real numbers. So I will write it here. 2 open interval negative pi by 2 to positive pi by 2. So these are the domain and range of sine inverse, cos inverse and tan inverse. Okay. So here we have to write the principal branch in a standard way. Even if you write any branch, it is still right. But the standard way of writing the domain and range of inverse trigonometric function is we have to take the principal branch, okay, as the range of these inverse trigonometric functions. Okay, now we are left with 3 more inverse trigonometric functions, which are cosec inverse, sec inverse and cot inverse. Now these 3 are to be done by you. So same as I did here, you do the same thing. First you plot the graph, you know the graphs of all the 6 trigonometric ratios. First you plot the graph and then graphically you try to find out the domain and range, okay, of the inverse trigonometric function. That will be easier because graphically we can see that in which interval the function will become invertible. It's quite simple to do that. So first you plot the graph for cosec and then you see by restricting which interval you get cosec inverse. So like that you can find the domain and range of cosec inverse, sec inverse, cot inverse. That is your assignment. Okay. So today I'll just stop here. I will not go too detailed because too much teaching will confuse you. So I'll stop here. Now today's assignment for you is you will find the domain and range for these 3 inverse trigonometric functions. Okay. You try to derive the principal branch for each of these 3 inverse trigonometric functions. Okay. So I will stop here. And I hope whatever I taught you today, you will understand. And I'll stop here. Thank you.